Hello everybody, welcome to our webinar on creating and running live events within Microsoft Teams, specifically focused on human resources use cases. Thank you for joining us. This is just a half-hour session. It'll be me mostly talking, not on camera the whole time, you'll be glad to know. And in support for our question and answers, we have Matt Wild. He's our Teams migration specialist. My name's Simon Carter. I am Pi Digital's Power Platform lead, also specialising in Teams. And this is a part of a series of webinars we've been doing on Teams. So please look us up on YouTube, where you can see all of our different ones. We have so far run a session on getting the most out of Teams. That was an hour long, and another live events webinar is similar to this, but for comms professionals instead. Well, what we're going to be doing in this session is, well, first of all, it'll be a little bit of background about us, Pi Digital. Then we're going to move on to what live events actually are, and crucially, how it differs from things like Teams meetings or even Zoom sessions, etc. We're not saying that this is a kind of thing you'd use daily, maybe weekly, monthly, something like that. But as I say, we're going to look at a couple of use cases. Then we're going to dive into the demo section. In the demo section, you're going to see how to do it all, basically. We're going to look at how you create the event, what all the different settings are around that, what you need to bear in mind in different scenarios, and how to get people aware of the webinar. Following that, we're going to look at actually running your live event. So jumping into it, there's an area called the lobby, which I'll show you all about, and little things like Q&A and excuse me, recordings, chat, different things like that. So it's gonna be quite good. It'll be a bit of a light touch on some of the stuff because we do only have half an hour, but it should be enough to get you started. Talking of Q&A, there is the option for you to ask questions during the session. I think it's unlikely that we'll be able to get through any of them, or all of them at least, during this session, just given the time limits. But what we'll do is a couple of things. One, we'll get in touch with you direct and make sure you get the answer. And two, just so everybody else can get the answers to your questions, we're going to get a blog up on the Pi Digital Solutions website over the next week or two that will cover the question and answers from this session, the question and answers from the previous live event session, and just some general tips, best practice, and things to remember as well. Once we've gone through the ins and outs of running the event, we'll look at last the things that you get after the event. So you get things like engagement reports, when people joined, when people left, you get the Q&A report, you get a recording of the event, so we'll get to see all of that too. Okay. So, as I said before, I work for a company called Pi Digital Solutions. We're an agency based in central London, digital agency but based in central London, I should say. And we specialise in all the areas pertaining to digital transformation. Mostly we specialise in things in Microsoft 365 stack. So Teams, obviously, SharePoint, Power Platform, that's Power Apps, Automate, etc. General Office 365 adoption, engagement. And what we try and do is help organizations through from beginning of digital transformation for the inception of it all the way through the journey to the end where you've got adoption, engagement, and all of that. If you have any questions about anything, it could be live events, it could be anything else, then my contact details are at the end of this. I'll give you my contact details at the end of this, and all of the different ways you can get in touch with Pi Digital. Here are some of the things that we do. A couple of things I want to call out here, which could be really relevant to what we're talking about today, is obviously the Teams setup and rollout. This is an addition to Teams live events, obviously, but a lot of people are in a position at the moment, especially where they've just been dropped into using Teams because of the current situation and haven't really been given the tools or the knowledge to get the best out of it. So what you can do is just give us a call. We'll happily speak to you for half an hour, just go through the ins and outs of Teams and what we could do to help your organization. Also training. So one of the use cases we're going to talk about in a second is user training or training for anything really that you can do via live events, and it's something we specialize in. Also, as we're talking human resources, One of the things that is new to Office 365 and the Power Platform is the ability to quickly spin up chatbots that you can put on your website, you can put on your intranet, you can put into Teams. And one of the great use cases for that is to take your FAQs and put them into a chatbot. So people don't have to search websites, they can interact directly with a bot. But that isn't for today. We're probably going to do a session on that, or at least a video on that in the future. So do subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can leave us your email address and we can get in touch when there's content around that as well. Okay, so I'll just take a quick sip of drink. Okay, so how Teams live events could help human resources. These are a few use cases. I'm not going to read them all off the screen because you can see them yourselves. One of the things straight away that jumps out is delivering training programs. With live events, as you can probably tell from your experience of being in this live event, it is kind of a one-way communication. So I'm sitting here, I'm talking to you guys, you can't talk back to me. That's how it differs from a Teams meeting. You can ask questions through the Q&A on the screen. And if I had further producers and presenters, they would be able to answer your questions live or promote the questions to me, etc. But generally speaking, it's a one-way communication thing, and it is really good for training because what I can do is I could bring in different resources, I can share different applications. As you'll see as we go through this, you're going to see a bit of Teams. This is obviously PowerPoint. You're going to see some Excel later on, and it just means that I can quickly get this out to people all across the world from the comfort, as you can see, of my bedroom. Also providing content for staff who can't attend sessions, either because they've got other commitments or because they're furloughed currently. That's vital currently. The key word there is on demand as well. So with this session, it is being recorded. It's going to be on YouTube later on. But what you can also do within the settings of your live events, as I'll show you in just a few minutes, is you can set it up so that the attendees themselves can jump into the recording anytime they want just by clicking on a link. Which is a really cool feature. It means that, say you've had a message from the CEO or something that's been run via a live event, or an announcement on pay or something along those lines, you can get the live event, send out the link, and then people can view it whenever they want. Some organizations at the minute are taking live events to areas that aren't necessarily work-based, trying to keep staff motivated, trying to keep them healthy. One of the organizations we work with actually have been doing things like yoga classes and exercise routines. You could of course even do guided meditations. And this is a really good use case for on demand because if somebody misses a yoga class because they've got the kids at home and all that sort of thing, they can jump straight back onto it whenever just by clicking on the link. So without further ado, we're going to jump into how to actually get all this going. Remember, if you have any questions, there is a Q&A open. You'll actually see it during the session as we get into that bit later on. And remember, all of your questions will be answered, if not today, in the coming days and via the blog. Okay. Won't be a second. Okay. Apologies for the delay there. What happens is because I'm in live events, I've got to jump out of the event, jump back into Teams. So it isn't quite as slick as it could be, but here we are now. So if you're used to using Teams, you'll recognize this here. This is your Teams calendar. It is linked to your Outlook calendar. So if there was a lot in my Outlook calendar, you would see it on the screen now. To create a live event, what we're doing is we're looking up in the top right-hand corner here. You've got your two meetings options, so you can do a Teams meeting instantly, schedule a Teams meeting. But on the drop-down menu here, you have the option of a live event. The settings themselves are quite straightforward. The first thing you need, of course, is a title. So let's say this is going to be, let's say I'm going to deliver a yoga session, as unlikely as that might sound. The location here, the idea behind using location, of course, we're on Teams. Of course, this is virtual. People can connect from anywhere in the world. All they need is an internet connected device, potentially. But if there's a group of you running a session, so it could be 3 or 4 of you in as producers, which I'll explain in just a second. And although currently you'd all be at home doing this, in the future it's likely that you'd all be at work. So this is where you'd pick the room that you're going to be in, book a room within the building, so you can all convene together and run a session together. In this situation, of course, we're going to leave the location blank. The extra features and extra options underneath here, quite self-explanatory. When is it? How long is it going to be for? So let's say this one is 6 o'clock tonight, and it's going to be for an hour. And then put some information in there for people to see. Next up on the right hand side is inviting people. Now the key thing here is these aren't the people who you want to attend the session. These are the people who you want to help produce and deliver the session, the event. So at the moment, because I'm the organizer, I'm down as a producer. If I wanted to invite more people, so I'm going to invite Matt to this one. What I would do is start typing the name in there and pick Matt. Automatically he goes down as a presenter, and I'll explain the difference between that in just a second. But you must have at least one producer. You don't have to have any presenters. And the roles do differ slightly, as I say, I'll show you in just a moment. If I want Matt to help out with, changing which screen we're looking at, muting people who aren't ready to talk yet, all that sort of thing, I would make sure he's a producer. So whilst I'm talking, he's there in the background then. He will see the same view as I see in the lobby, but as I say, be able to queue up content. So probably actually, a good example of we could have seen a good example there where I was switching screens. He could have that content queued up and then ready to go. When you click on to next, we have a few more settings. The first one here is if you want to make your live event invite only, then this is where you set that. On here, this means for people to actually attend the event, they have to have been invited. You can change this at any time. You can go back in and invite more people, remove people if you wish. But let's say I want to invite Vanessa to this. Click onto that. And now Vanessa is currently the only person who's invited to attend, and she will be attending as an attendee as you guys are today. Second option here is organization wide. So if I set this, it would mean anybody in Pi Digital Solutions could come to this event. And that's likely what you would have for corporate briefings and things like that. As you can see, there's a sign in required. So all they would need is an Office 365 account for your organization, and then they'll be able to go in. And the third option there is public. This is the option that we've used for today. It means that anybody in the world can attend the event. All they need is a link, the link you clicked on to get here. Now, you may not have access to be able to do this. The availability of this option is controlled at organization level. So the people who look after your Office 365 will have either turned on or off public. If you do have a use case where you need it to be public, for instance, if you want to produce a live event that even if it involves one other company, it would need to be public, then get in touch with your IT department and say that you do need it. Beneath that, we have a couple of settings. I'll briefly explain all of these. The first one there is one that you can't turn off. I don't even know why it says it has it on there, but what this means is that the session will be recorded, as I said before, and it means that all of the producers and presenters will be able to go back after the session and view the recording or download the recording. Second thing there, recording available to attendees. This is what I was talking about earlier on. This is the on-demand section aspect of it. What that means, just to recap, is that at any time within the next year, I think it is, people will be able to just click on the link and view the session as if it was happening now. Then we've got a new setting. This may not be available to you yet, but hopefully it is. It is captions. It means that people who are attending your session can switch on automatic captions. The captioning in Microsoft programs is surprisingly brilliant. It even picks up all the intricacies of my northern accent. And actually does quite a good job of captioning. So I don't know, you can all have a go of it now. Switch captions on and see if it's working okay. You can also translate it up to 6 languages. These are the ones. You could choose up to 6 of all of these, and it will translate it on the fly. So if you do have offices in different areas or lots of people who speak a different language in your organization or who are going to attend your event, then you can also have live captioning in different languages too. Here is we're going to have a look at an engagement report later on. It's probably a good thing to have switched on, I would imagine, unless you're just not interested. But what it does is it says when people joined, when people left, so therefore how long they stayed for. What's good about that is you can actually see if people had technical problems, because sometimes you see people join, they join for a minute, then they're off, then they're on again, then they're off again, and it's something you could address further down the line. And then Q&A, you don't have to have it switched on. We always do, because it's nice for people to be able to ask questions, especially if we're delivering something that's slightly technical like this, and it may be that we haven't been clear on something, so we like to always add Q&A on there too. Okay, so that's all set up. So just to recap here, I have scheduled a yoga class that's available to anybody in the world. They can come and view it any time, so I've got this on demand on. They can put subtitles on and translate it into, let's say we also want it in Arabic, so you can translate it into Arabic. And I'm going to get an engagement report at the end to see all those Egyptians who came to my yoga class, etc. So I'm going to click schedule now. And here we go. So what we have now is the meeting invite. So what will have happened here is Matt, because he's down as a producer, he'll have a meeting invite so it can go into his calendar. Again, the people who are coming to it, they need to put it into their own calendar because we haven't actually invited any attendees. That would be different if we'd said we are going to restrict it to a certain number of people and they need to be invited, then it would go into their calendar. But what you need to send to people is this attendee link. So if you click onto that, automatically copies it to your clipboard. So now you can send it out via email. I took ours and put it onto Eventbrite, as that's how you all got here today. And that's how you get the link for people who are actually going to attend. As a producer or a presenter, when it comes time to run the session, you will click join. Incidentally, just to the right of that, you have chat. What this is a chat between participants. By participants, it doesn't mean people attending the session. It means everybody who's in this group here. So whether the producers, presenters, or the organizer, that's who the chat is for. You can chat before, during, and after the session too. It's quite a handy little feature because it would mean if something was going horribly wrong, it might be that Matt would then send a chat message to me and say no one can see your screen or something like that. So it is a handy feature. You have the option of cancelling, or you can click edit as well. Clicking edit I'm not going to do now, but basically what it does is it allows you to change any of the settings you've already done. Date, time, type of event, title, all of that sort of thing. You can change every single thing. Beneath, we've got this live event resources. There's nothing there. This isn't pre-resources. It's not guides or videos or anything you're loading up for the event. It's the things like the engagement report and the recording and all that you get after the event, and I'll show you that later on. Okay, now this is a bit like the Matrix, I would say. We're looking inside the lobby of a live event that I'm actually delivering right now. Hi, camera over there. So I'll take you again briefly through the screen. I'm aware of the time, but yeah, over on the left hand side we have the queue. So if I had more content or another producer who had, say, a PowerPoint presentation lined up, they could have this in the queue ready for it to be sent live. So this section over here at the minute is what people are actually seeing, but I could queue up something else for you to see straight after this. In the queue section as well, you have this. You'll have noticed at the beginning of this, I was mini screen to the left, the right of the presentation. That's what this is here. So you get the content on the left, the video on the right, or you can go full screen with either video or content. In this case, we've got content. When you've got something ready, you click send live and it appears over here on the right hand side, and that is what you guys will be seeing. So you wouldn't see anything in the queue necessarily until it's been sent live. Incidentally, this button down here that says end, you can probably guess what that does. It ends the session. I'm going to click that now. Before it actually starting, that button is a start button. So you can queue up content, get it into the live window, and then you hit send, start, and then it starts a session for everybody. So it's actually quite simple to do. It does get more complicated, as you can imagine, when you have more people down here. But yeah, it is relatively straightforward. The one thing I can't really show you from here right now is how you get more content onto here. But this button here, it says stop sharing. You'll not be surprised to hear that before you share anything, it says share. And what you do is you hit share, and then you click either a desktop window, or you click a file you've got open, like a PowerPoint presentation or something like that. And then it appears in this content section here, which you can double click and send up to the queue. So if you had 5 or 6 presenters or 5 or 6 producers, they could all have content ready up here. And as a producer, you would then double click on it and it gets into the queue. You then hit send live, and off it goes for everybody to see. It's as straightforward as that. The first time you look at this, because it's so different to everything else in Teams, it can seem a little bit overwhelming. But once you've had a couple of goes of it, and what I would recommend to anybody who's going to do a live event is to do a few practice ones first, just so you get used to the technology. Invite your colleagues to be attendees as well, so they get the other side of it, so you can make sure everything's good from that side. But once you've done it a couple of times, it is really straightforward. What we also have up in the top right hand corner are a few toggles. I won't go through all of these because they're not all relevant. This health and performance is my internet speed. So if I was having any problems, if there were any problems, I could make sure it wasn't me. Here, this is a Q&A. See if anybody's asked any questions yet. Nobody's asked any questions yet. Feel free. But this would be all of the questions and answers. Now, as the person talking right now, you wouldn't normally be scrolling through the Q&A. And this is why it's a good idea to have more presenters, more producers who can look at the questions as they come in. What you can also do is make announcements from here. So I could send something out to everybody, or another presenter could. And the other presenters or the other producers, when they get the questions, they can actually answer them in text form, and you can get your answer straight away without the person talking actually having to be disturbed. So it's quite a useful feature. This is the notes section. These can be taken through the session. Again, probably not by the person talking, but as it says there, these are available for people after and during the session. This is the chat that I was talking about before. You can see here, Matt joined and then left. That's for practicing before. But yeah, this is the meeting chat between all participants. And what you can see over here is a list of the participants. So these are all of the people who, again, just to reiterate, are the people helping produce the event. With the settings on the right hand side, this is quite a boring but also useful area. What we've got here is, and it's a good idea to test this out before you start, but this is where the audio is coming in, which speakers you're using, which microphone you're using, which camera you're using. So I've got a couple of cameras, so I could switch it over to that one. There it is there, or switch it back. So yeah, so you could just make sure you've got everything set as you wanted to. If you do it before the session as well, you can do what's called a test call. And what will happen then is Teams will call you, and then you can speak into it or record yourself into it, and then it'll play it back to you, so you can make sure the sound's okay, the camera's okay, and all that sort of thing. The last thing you want to be doing is figuring all this out as you're doing the session. You want to know about it beforehand. I can see we've got a question coming. I won't look at that now for the privacy of the person who asked it, but we will answer it later on. Okay. I'm going to briefly stop sharing so I can show you the, before I do that, pardon me, go back to a previous event. So this is an event that was run on the 6th of May. It was our other live events session. And I just wanted to show you the kind of thing, the live event resources section after the session. So I could download the video recording, I could download the Q&A report, which is all of our questions and who asked them, crucially. I can download the engagement report, and I can switch on the recording for attendees so that they can go back and view it again via the link. We don't do that because we pop it up onto YouTube for people to see, but if it was an inter-company thing, then of course we certainly would. The report itself, the engagement report looks like this. I've anonymized it just you know, for privacy, but this is what it looks like. So over on the left hand side you get the session ID. Columns B and C is the person's name and email address in case you need to contact them. Then you get how people joined. That isn't necessarily useful for everybody, but if you want to see how people are interacting with your events, then it might be useful. Then you get the UTC time that they joined or left and what their role was. You can see we've got an event team member joining there. That was probably me in this session. A couple of things I want to point out to you. We won't spend any longer on here than is necessary, but this can be a very useful report. First things first, the session ID kind of looks a bit nonsensical, but this is good for matching up individual sessions for somebody who did have technical problems. If somebody joined and left and joined and left, you'd see their name appear on the report over and over and over again. What you want to do is match up the two session IDs so you can see when they joined and when they left. Another thing to bear in mind, that's a UTC event timestamp. UTC is Universal Time Coordinated, and it's the same as GMT, I think. So if you're running a session in British Summer Time as we are now, then you need to add an hour onto all of that too. And what you also want to do, if you're doing some analysis of attendees, is not just focus on the average, so the average amount of time somebody spent in a session, or the average time that people left, because that can really skew the results if a few people had to leave halfway through, or like I said, I would also remove all of the people who clearly had technical issues. Somebody was on for 30 seconds, for instance. What you want to look at is how many people stayed right to the end. So that's a really key thing. How many people were there, in this case, 1:30 when this finishes? How many people joined promptly? And how long most people spend. So rather than the average time, do like a count. I can't remember what it's called now, the mode, rather than the mean in there. Okay. Bear with me, apologies for this. Okay, thank you for that. That was, again, not very slick screen switching. I need to work on that a little bit. So a bit of a whistle-stop tour of how to run live events. Hopefully the use cases section was particularly useful to you as well. If you have any questions, I've seen 1 or 2 questions have come through on the Q&A now. If you have any questions following this that you didn't think of today, please do get in touch. You can see my email address on there, simon.carter@pidigitalsolutions.com. You can also email info@pidigitalsolutions.com if you've got any general questions about digital transformation, about what we do, how we can help with different things. And you can also go to our website, which is where we'll put the blog post about all the Q&As for the live events. Or follow us on LinkedIn, follow us on Twitter, come and see us on YouTube. Lots of different ways to interact with us. Okay, so thank you very much for attending. I look forward to speaking to you all again in the future. Keep your eye out for more of our webinars. We don't just do Teams, we have more coming up in the future, as I said before, on chatbots, how to create a chatbot, some on SharePoint. So please do keep an eye on us on all of the channels. I hope you all have a great afternoon, and I'll speak to you all soon.